How shall we introduce you to the listeners, to the audience, to the readers? You translate from French.
That's right, and sometimes other languages. And I
like.
Well, I've tried. I like trying different languages. So even though French is the main language I translate from, I've also translated from German and a little bit of Swedish once. A book of stories about elves by Einar Norelius.
Yes, Einar Norelius. Yes.
And then recently I've been trying to do little stories from the Dutch.
Oh.
By A.L. Snijders. So this is for fun, really. And if they're simple enough, I can do it. I'm sure if you get to a higher level of, difficulty in the story, I would be lost. If difficult constructions and particular idioms and sayings and expressions. But if it's kept very simple, which most of his stories are, then I can understand. And I like them very much, so that's fun.
And also you teach.
I teach what we call creative writing. I should just say writing, because writing fiction. And I teach one course a year. It's not my main activity.
Your main activity is to write?
Yes,
your
I'd
own
say,
stories.
Yeah, writing. And now getting into histories of family members. I'm studying the ancestors the way people enjoy studying their ancestors now and
Yes.
writing about them.
It seems to be here in Sweden we have quite a few biographies written by the children of survivors from concentration camps. Do you have the same?
We do. We have a lot of that. Yes, a friend of mine is working on her family who lived in Vienna before the war, and not really after the war much.
No. Why are people so unhappy in your novels? I have the feeling that they're all concerned.
Oh, in the stories. I thought you meant in the world.
No. I'm sorry.
Oh, I suppose it's more that when I'm happy and things are going well, I don't feel the need to write. I just enjoy life. And so I write when there's a problem. I mean, you often get the wrong impression from a writer. I remember reading Kafka's diaries when I was quite young. And they're full of complaints and difficult neighbors and sleepless nights and noises, and he can't work. So you have the impression that he was an unhappy, discontented man, but he didn't write about all the good times he had with friends and going to the theater, and I mean, maybe he did write about some of that. So that's what I would say. I write to try to work things out, and so it sounds as if there's always unhappiness, but that's not true in my life. Some people do say that the stories help them because they help them work through a difficulty, or they show that other people have the same difficulty and the same questions.
That's very nice.
Yes.
It's nice to hear that from readers, I guess.
Oh, it is, yes.
I wanted to ask you about your readers, but I want to ask you a question about language first, since we began with language. That was actually when I came to the story about the school class, writing these letters to the young boy who was in the hospital, and how you sort of dissected, is that a word?
Mm-hmm.
The feelings, the words, the stories, everything.
Yes, that I think I was very touched by the letters. I mean, it's all very indirect in one sense, because this was an actual file of real letters. And I found the letters very touching and moving, but I don't convey that directly. I assume the persona of a very cool and objective woman, a scientist who's studying the language of the letters. And so she keeps her feelings to herself and just analyzes the letters. And I think I was hoping that, if I hoped anything, it was that the force of the language of the letters themselves would come through against the background of her very neutral statements. So
they do.
Yeah.
They do, and in a way they become very abstract. So what is words? What is language? You start to think when you read. Do you have any explanation? What is words, language to you? Oh, it's a fascinating thing to me, language, because you change one punctuation mark and the whole meaning changes, and you add one word and the statement suddenly has great emotional gravity. So it's a very magical and almost dangerous thing, language. Where are the limits? I mean,
I think the limit is a sense of the reader's tolerance or impatience. I mean, the reader being myself too, that I can take it to a certain point, and then if I keep going with it, it will keep going with the analysis or the thought. If I go beyond a certain point, I will get tired of it. It will become predictable. I suppose I take it to the limit of predictability. If it becomes predictable, then I end it. I end it before it becomes predictable, so that the reader is saying, oh yes, I see where she's going, I see what she's doing, I already know. I don't like that to happen. So
there's a fear for overworking or overdoing a story.
Yeah. And some people have, everyone has different limits of tolerance. So for some readers, maybe I go too far, but others, no.
What makes a story work then? What kind of qualities must it have?
I think it's a surprise, elements of surprise and revelation, a different way of looking at the world. And a strong form, a strong shape.
There's no narrative scenes between characters. Is that... Why not?
I think I've always shied away from a certain artificiality in fiction and writing. And in the beginning, I accepted it because I didn't know any better. So we're taught to study traditional short stories, Chekhov and Catherine Mansfield, and the whole tradition of the short story. And when it's done very well, you don't even think of it as artificial or overly constructed. But then when it came to my own writing, I wrote that way at first, and then I abandoned it and preferred to do away with as much of the artificial device as I could and just make it a more straightforward sort of narration.
But now that you are writing about your relatives and looking back in your own history, are you using the same method?
I think in looking at telling the stories of my ancestors, I will be very direct. I'm not pretending that this is fiction. I will really tell the story straightforwardly.